Hey everybody, my name is Spin, and today we're going to be testing smoke advantage. So unlike CSGO, smokes in Valorant come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So here's the question that I've been asking. When you're pushing through your smoke against an opponent, who has the advantage? And how long is that advantage? You'd think that with Peeker's advantage, pushing through a smoke would automatically give you some advantage, but nope. In every test that I did, the defensive player always has the advantage. So for every utility, we tested 4 scenarios: a forward run towards your opponent, a forward walk towards your opponent, a strafe run facing your opponent, and a strafe walk facing your opponent. In our case, the defender's ping was 45 and the attacker's ping was 28. The aggressor always carried a phantom, which a lot of the time stuck out of the smoke, so keep that in mind. Your mileage may vary depending on what gun you're holding, from a pistol to an operator. It would take a while to run you through every single test, so for an example, I'm just going to show you how I did it with Viper's Orb, and then we'll move on to looking at all the raw data. Also, if you want to see all the raw video for a test, there's going to be an unlisted link in the description where you can watch it all. Hey, this is the part where I ask you to subscribe because you are awesome. So let's take a look at Viper's Orb. The run forward test gave the defender a 175 millisecond advantage, while the walk forward test gave the defender a 341 millisecond advantage. It's easy to see that when you're running forward, your gun is going to be the first thing that goes through that smoke, which is going to give your position away. The strafe run test gave the defender a 125 millisecond advantage, while the strafe walk gave the defender a 283 millisecond advantage. So let's go ahead and look at the raw data here in terms of milliseconds. By the way, there's a little black spot here with Jett's strafing data. I kind of botched the way I executed it, and I didn't feel comfortable including that data in there, but her set seems to be kind of similar to Omen's for the most part. Let's look at the 2 smoke walls that you have in the game. You've got Phoenix's wall and you've got Viper's wall. Already, just by looking at the data, you can see that Phoenix's wall has an additional 100 millisecond disadvantage for the attacker. And if you look at the strafe run test, Phoenix's wall performs twice as bad as Viper's wall. You think that because they're both just smoke walls that they'd operate the same, but that's not the case. What's happening here is that Phoenix's on-screen effect is way more powerful than Viper's on-screen effect. And everyone kind of already knows this already, because whenever you get close to a Phoenix wall, you can see that the on-screen effect is intense. Essentially, what we notice is that when you stray through Phoenix's wall, you get fully flashed when you're in the middle of it, and you can't see anything at all. So for that, and aside from the obvious healing that it gives to Phoenix, I'd say that Phoenix's wall operates much more as a defensive tool than an offensive one. Let's take a look at Brimstone smokes versus Jett smokes. Something interesting is that Brimstone's on-screen effects are super intense compared to Jett's. Once you exit Brimstone's smoke, it takes about 75 milliseconds for the effect to dissipate, whereas with Jett, it's only 16 milliseconds. This actually makes a lot of sense, since Riot intends for Jett smokes to be used as an aggressive tool compared to Brimstone's. But it's still crazy that Brimstone's on-screen effects last so long. For that reason, it's easy to see that Brimstone smokes are a defensive tool, whereas Jett smokes are mostly an attack tool. The Cypher vs Omen smoke is less interesting. Omen consistently has about 10 to 30 milliseconds higher, but that's relatively negligible considering that these tests are relatively rudimentary. Let's move on to the most interesting part, which is going to be the big takeaways for this. Takeaway number 1, never walk through smokes. The data here shows that it consistently gives you a massive disadvantage due to your weapon or body parts sticking out of the smoke. The data here is clear that if you walk when you're exiting a smoke, you're going to be at a massive disadvantage. This is because your weapon and body parts often stick through the smoke before you can even see what's going on. Other people can see you, but you can't see them, and that's not what you want. It also increases the amount of on-screen effects that you have on your screen, so you're essentially flashing yourself. Takeaway number 2, always strafe out of a smoke. Try to position yourself so that you're strafing out of a smoke while still facing your opponent. This is a little advanced, but if you're going to try to strafe out of a smoke, try to strafe out towards the back end of the smoke, the side that's not facing your opponent, and then strafe out. That way the on-screen effects will dissipate while you're still hidden from your opponent. Takeaway number 3, Viper's wall is paper thin. If you ever wondered how viable Viper's wall can be used as an offensive tool, well, don't really wonder anymore. Just know that Viper, or anyone for that matter, can strafe through that wall with little repercussions to their on-screen effects. Takeaway number 4, Cypher's wall is paper thin as well, and unlike Viper's wall, it has no on-screen effects. You go straight from not seeing anything to seeing everything. Takeaway number 5, Brimstone smokes are defensive behemoths. As far as defense goes, they're the most powerful smokes in the game. You can't see anything when you're in them, so that can kind of disorient you, and they have massive on-screen effect times. If you look at the data, even strafing out of a Brimstone smoke is on par with the risk factor of running forward out of an Omen smoke. So no matter what you do, I would advise against pushing a Brimstone smoke because you're probably going to be at a massive disadvantage. So here's the data that I collected right here, and I want to ask, what do you think is the most interesting part of this data? If you want to share, please let me know in the comments below. I will be reading and responding to each and every single one of the comments below. Hey everyone, my name is Spin. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It would mean so much to me. I put a lot of work into these kinds of videos, and hitting that like button or hitting the subscribe button really goes a long way.